this edition of Careers That Matter, I'm joined by Beverlee Rasmussen, the author of Small Business Big Opportunity and a business consultant to entrepreneurs and small business operators with a keen focus on helping women, but not exclusively. Beverlee, welcome.
Thanks, Stuart. Thanks for having me today.
How do you describe exactly what your job is?
I am a very proud small business coach. Yes. I'm the lead coach and founder of Systems Business Coach, and I now have 40 business coaches around the world using my methodology to help small business owners get their businesses organized and profitable.
40?
40 and growing.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
So, what does an average day look like for you then?
Yes, strategic and tactical. So I do still have a few small business owner clients, although that's diminished. There was a time when I had a 2-year waitlist, and that was when I decided that I needed to share what I was doing with the world. So at that point, I had 25 business clients, which was I was at capacity at that point. And so in 2019, I launched the small business coach training programs that I have. And so that required a lot of development. So the client stuff went down, and I've been in graduate school for 10 years. So part of that education, 2 graduate certificates and a master's degree, all focused on how can I solve the problem of small business failure. So I wrote 2 books, The Successful Business Field Guide, which is the step-by-step 52 competencies. If you ask my husband, he's like, you're in your office, writing. After I finished my master's paper, he says, do I get my wife back now? So it gives you an idea of like the level of kind of commitment to development of that process. So that a typical day, I'm in my office. I have a beautiful home office that my hubby built. And kids coming and going. The kids live close by. I'm a grandma now. So I have the grandkids every Friday.
So, but you're busy.
I'm busy, yes. I am on a mission.
And define that mission. What is the mission?
Well, I'm not okay. The failure rate of small business in Canada, actually globally, when I did my master's work, let's focus on Canada here, we have a 50-50 chance. Every small business owner has a 50% chance of making it to year 5. I'm not okay with that. One of my jobs after selling my business is I interviewed small business owners from around the world, 3,300 of them over 4 years, and their stories broke my heart. And every time I'm like, I think I could, you just need to do, like I had in my mind what they could do, and I felt like I needed to share that. And so that's the mission, is if I could reduce the failure rate of small business owners. In Canada, we're very entrepreneurial. We're great at starting businesses. Every organization, Futurepreneur, Women's Entrepreneur Center, BDC, like all of the organizations that have funding, their mandate, start a business, do a business plan, start a business, check, give them a loan. We're terrible at keeping those businesses going.
Why?
Because between year 3 and 8, as most business owners will be nodding their head at this point, you've had your plan, you had a little bit of seed money, you had a plan to get started, you have maybe a few employees, and you've got a viable product, but that's when things get really hard. And there's not enough support. How do I hire? How do I fire? How do I work around this tax issue? What should I do with, the supply chain issue that's happening? Can I talk to, they have no one to talk to.
No, it's a very lonely experience. It's like playing singles tennis.
Yes.
You're on your own.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can't talk to your partner because they're counting on you to bring money home. You can't talk to your employees because, God forbid, they know how bad things are.
Well, they'll quit.
Yes.
Yeah. I know.
So what I discovered is that we really need a different approach, and that's if you talk about, that's what my day's been like, developing training courses, trying to get this material into the hands of organizations that have funding to help small business owners.
I know that we're going to come back to your career in 1 second, but it's also, I think, important for small businesses to realize just because you made it to year 10, it's not a guarantee that you're going to make it to year 20, because the world keeps changing on you all the time. And
4% make it to year 10.
4%.
Yeah,
I know. From out of 100, that means only 4 businesses made it to year 10.
That's statistics.
Yeah. And it's still not clear sailing.
The interesting thing is, in 2012-13, the government, the BC provincial government, came up with a micro business training program, and they put $1,500 funding into the hands of small business owners that wanted training in either marketing, finance, leadership, system structure. I worked with 150 of those businesses over that time. And what really surprised me, which has been driving this, is that so many of them, over 85% of them, are still in business. We're talking coffee shops, consignment stores, IT companies, soap shops on the island. And so, I had to look at that, and that's what made me want to do my master's and really focus on what can we do better to keep businesses going. Because if they're responsible for 50% of all jobs in Canada, and they're all going to fail by year 5, we have this invisible chaos that no one's talking about. No one's addressing that issue.
So let's go back earlier in your life. You're in high school, you graduate. What did you think you were going to do with your life?
Oh, yeah, you touched on a really tough spot. So I had an unfortunate grade 11 year. My mom remarried, and I lost that parent a year later to suicide. And so I was in a new town, and my dream always as a young girl, I was working in a seniors care home. I was really interested in geriatrics, and I wanted to be a nurse. I wanted to work in medicine. That was my original goal. But when we shifted, I moved from 100 kilometers away from where I grew up to a new town and a new school. And so that opportunity was taken away. And then when Bill passed, I needed to figure out what I was going to do. And so I actually walked down the street and saw a travel agency. And I walked in and I said, what do you need to do to become a travel agent? I thought, maybe it would be an escape. And so I became a travel agent. And on my 18th birthday is when I started, and I did that job for a long time. And that's how I ended up starting a travel agency further down the road. But it was
So how old were you when you started your own travel agency?
Single mom in 30. Yeah.
But you knew the business.
By then I'd been working, 12 years. I had been an agent. I had been a manager of an agency. I had opened helped someone else open a business. And I was good at my job. Yeah, I was a great travel agent. I knew that I could do that, but I didn't know anything about running a business. Certainly, that was a complete, absolute, amazing shift. Baptism by fire.
Absolutely. So you ran that business for how long?
7 years.
And you sold it?
I sold it. I sold it at a time you couldn't give a travel agency away. I don't know if you know, in 1997,
everything changed.
The airlines took away our revenue.
Right.
And we lost 70% of our revenue in one day. But we shifted because we had systems and structure in place. What I learned about that experience was I didn't love the travel agency business. It never really was what I loved. I loved building, running, and selling that business. That was my jam.
So where'd you go next? You sell it. What was your plan?
Well, I had a baby 10 days later, our third child.
Then you were focused for a while.
I was focused, yes. I had our youngest son at home too. That was a great experience. And so I was my kid's mom for a few years, but the calling to go back to the time, 39% of agencies went out of business that year. And so a lot of my colleagues didn't make it through that rough time. And so I think it sparked something in me that said, I want to make a difference. And so in 2004, I met Michael Gerber, the author of The E-Myth, Why Most Businesses Don't Work and What to Do About It.
I have read that book.
Yes. Michael's an incredible gentleman and a contributor to Small Business, another fantastic book business owners need to read. And I had read his book, and it helped me systematize my business. So he was here in Vancouver, and I had my book, it was all dog-eared, and I got him to sign it. And I told him my story. I said, I built a $3 million a year company from some of the advice you'd given me in this book, and I wanted to thank him. And he said, send me your story. The short version of that, I sent him my story, and he loved it so much. He called me and he invited me to California, and he said, do you want to represent Canada for E-Myth? And that's who I ended up working for just about 4 years.
And from there, you then reached out and started coaching others?
Yeah, I still felt we still were in that time zone of the type of support that we were giving small business owners. What I knew and what was being presented was two different things. And so I really wanted to explore, what do we need to do differently? And so I started consulting in 2008. The problem was no one would do as I would tell them to do. Like, people were not good at listening. And so I realized I needed to do something different, and initially didn't think about coaching, but I realized that there's it's a different skill set. And so I thought, if I'm going to be a coach, what's the best university? I sought that out. What designations do I need? International Coaching Federation, check. Graduate certificate, check. And very quickly, as soon as I shifted my approach to working with business owners, even though I could tell you what to do, if I tell you what to do, you're brain and your body's not going to respond. But if I ask you, it's going to light up your prefrontal cortex, you're going to feel calm, you're going to be making your own decisions, and I'll have a very different approach. So that was the beginning of understanding what it is. How do I take the knowledge that I have and empower you with that? And so that's what I built the entire program on, is that different approach to how humans learn. How does a human learn? And that was the question I wanted to ask.
What do you think is like a characteristic about you that allowed you to go from this remarkable transformation of wanting to be a nurse, becoming a travel agent, becoming a business owner, becoming a business mentor and coach? What gave you the ability to navigate your way on this path?
Yeah, that's a really kind of good and deep question, and I appreciate it, because I've thought about that. And if I look at my core values, fundamentally, what's really important to me, and because having had, the trauma as a child, peace is really important to me. So I'm wearing a peace necklace. My license plate has the word peace in it. I've got, that essence. Maybe I like the hippies as a kid, that when I was a kid, they were all teenagers. I thought it was pretty cool. And so even as a Girl Guide, there was a song, "Let There Be Peace on Earth and Let It Begin With Me." I remember singing that as a Girl Guide and being a helper. I felt passionate in that. Then later on, joining Rotary, World Peace Through Service, the World Peace Through Understanding, just that desire to create a more peaceful world. And I find that with coaching, if I can settle the business owner down in a couple of, it doesn't take long, to go from helpless and overwhelmed and stressed to having hope, then I think it feeds something in me that says, yeah, you've served your purpose here. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing in the world. And imagine now, like, I have coaches all over the world. I have 7 coaches in Lithuania. I've been on television there, and I've met the business owners that have been impacted by the work that I've done. And we can't even speak to each other in the same language, but the hug tells me, their revenue's gone up 4 times. They've opened another store just from a little bit of exposure to a different way. And so how cool is that to create, I've got coaches in Malaysia, New Zealand, United States, Germany. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, thank you for giving us a glimpse into your career.
Thank you for having me here today and allowing me to share that. It's important work.